Park, get set, explore! The wild and scenic Lamprey River is a beautiful, historic gem. Although the Lamprey has its origins at Betty Meadows Lake in Northwood and flows 47 miles to its end at Great Bay, the wild and scenic portion of the river begins in Epping, at the dam at Mary Blair Park. The Lamprey River Advisory Committee has created a tour guide map to help people enjoy the unique historical and ecological attributes that earned the Wild and Scenic River designation from the National Park Service. Much of the land adjacent to the Lamprey is privately owned, but the public can access the river at several points along its course, as noted in the map. The tour begins at Mary Blair Park. Come along as we discover more. Kevin Martin of Epping has long been an active advocate of both the Lamprey River and Mary Blair Park.
What are some of the key features here at Mary Blair, and what are these maybe special concerns about this area?
Yeah, Mary Blair Park was started really before I got involved with the conservation projects, and this was one of the first public use areas in Epping. And Mary Blair herself was a school teacher, well known in the town, well respected. She wanted to leave something for the children to use in Epping, and Mary Blair Park was given to the town for that reason. And we think it's important to keep that reason going, and the ballparks are great. It gets kids from all towns over here to have recreation, and the Little League games are held here. And there's also a picnic area where families take the young kids here and hang out by the river. And it's also the start of the annual canoe race, so a good park for getting out and enjoying with the kids and the other family members.
Mary Folsom was born in 1881. She was a pensive person who contemplated nature, history, and her Quaker beliefs. She spent a lot of time outdoors and recorded her thoughts in her diaries. She married late in life and generally walked her own independent path. As the daughter of mill owners, she recognized that she had a somewhat privileged position in life, and thus felt a great obligation to help others who were less fortunate. As a teacher in a one-room schoolhouse, she was always generous with her knowledge, time, and resources. She was greatly loved by several generations of schoolchildren, as well as the whole community. She died in 1973 at the age of 92. Although she is no longer with us, the park named in her honor is a reminder to us all of her enduring love of the area and its people. Mary never had children of her own, but two of her great-nephews, David and Neil Folsom, still live in Epping. We spoke with them at the Quaker Meeting House about their recollections of their Aunt May.
Aunt May was a very diligent woman. Her gift was to take during a time when there was not a lot of outlet for that type of thinking or ability. She became a teacher, and she took the class on nature walks that were 5 miles long, and to teach them about all nature from West Epping to Pawtucket Lake. Many, many times.
I can't imagine. That'd be great to go to school in the morning and go, okay, well, we're going to go to the lake today, and
That's great.
spend the whole day walking up the trail and checking everything out. But to me, I mean, she was 72 years old when I was born. So we used to come over to her house, big house, all kinds of things to check out for a little kid, and a big barn out back with the old cars and all kinds of things in it. But this town and this area, she's still a big name around here.
The Lamprey River has long been an attractive resource for people. Records of Native Americans' presence along the river date back 8,000 years. They took advantage of abundant fish and food resources, mostly as summer residents. Archaeologists have found evidence of campsites, fishing weirs, arrowheads, and other tools. As Europeans began to settle the area in the 1600s, they seemed to get along well with their native neighbors. Joshua Folsom established the first mill in Epping in 1746. The facility was located on both sides of the Folsom Dam. Over time, the Folsom family mills produced flour, lumber, plaster, woolen goods, shoes, and boxes. Until the site was donated to the town of Epping in 1972, the Folsom family had lived and worked there for 2 centuries.
So there's a lot of buildings were set up right along the dam here, and the river was used as power to keep these mills going. There's a lot of signs of the old mills. Is an old dam and a bridge that went over the river that's washed away. You can see a lot of stonework. On the other side of the river, you can see some sluiceways and different places where they had channeled the water to feed the mills. So there was a lot of history here that you see no sign of now. But it's important to have people realize that and see what's involved.
By the end of the 1800s, the Lamprey and its tributaries had over 100 dams and mills, harnessing the flow of water to provide power for manufacturing and generating electricity. The dams changed the landscape and blocked the passage of anadromous fish, such as salmon and shad. The mills poured their waste into the river. As water power gave way to electric power generated by burning fossil fuels, the mills closed and began to disappear. Many dams fell into a state of disrepair. Some succumbed to the ravages of ice and flooding, or they were deliberately removed. As the standard of living rose in the area, many people moved to the river to enjoy its scenic and recreational opportunities. Sometimes, homes and businesses were placed too close to the river. Such development jeopardizes wildlife habitat and natural ecological processes, and it also puts buildings and human lives at risk. The flow and height of the river tend to be predictable and steady on average, but during spring melt or during periods of abundant rain, floods can and do occur. Although the floodplain is prime habitat for wood ducks and wood turtles, it is no place for people to settle.
Are there any particularly sensitive areas of which you're aware along this stretch of the river?
I would say this area right here is sensitive. On the other side of the river here, we've just purchased property and turned it over for conservation, and that is where the Pawtuckaway River meets the Lamprey. So it's a big floodplain area where the river backs up as it flows. The Pawtuckaway backs up as it flows into the Lamprey. If the Lamprey's got a lot of water, it'll stay back into the floodplain area there. And a lot of wildlife like that. A lot of low shrubs and brush, and in the floodwater area, the wood ducks will raise their young in there, and gets a lot of use. There's even a picture circulating through the river committee of a bobcat on the greenhouse of the home that's right across the river from us.
Wow.
And this particular home is right in the floodplain, and the water has come up to the roof on it. So one thing that we're doing is that land has been purchased, and that house is going to be torn down, and brush will be replanted in that area, and it'll be reclaimed into a floodplain area, which will help protect areas downstream from overflow of water, because that will absorb some of the water that would normally run right off and go down. So we hope to do a lot in this stretch in the future.
The floodplain in its natural state is not generally inviting to people. It is covered by a combination of dense shrubs, a few flood-tolerant trees, and patches of sparse cover. Although it might not be flooded each year, it is flooded often enough to prevent the establishment of forests. One might think that wood turtles would prefer to live in the woods. Actually, they prefer to live in the floodplain, and in fact, rely on the floodplain for their habitat. Wood turtles are listed by the state of New Hampshire as a species of concern, mostly due to habitat loss and the long length of time it takes to reach breeding age. To a large degree, wood turtles are the indicator species of floodplain integrity. Wood turtles and the floodplains on which they rely deserve our protection. Please remember, wood turtles and other wild creatures should be left in their natural habitat. Kevin Martin saw 2 rare turtles recently.
This was a wood turtle that I had found a Blanding's turtle earlier the same day.
My goodness.
And it had a radio tracking collar on it. And on the way back home after seeing that, I thought, well, it'd be nice to find a wood turtle. And I was paddling upstream and found a riverbank that looked like it was torn up and something had been burrowing in it or whatever. And above it was a bunch of shrubs that I knew wood turtle probably like. So I got up and out of the canoe, and sure enough, a wood turtle was sitting right in the middle of the shrubs there. And he apparently was still covered with mud, so he apparently had just come out of the burrow on the side of the banking and was sunning. This was the first week in April, I believe. So that was quite a thing to find him. I took a bunch of pictures and sent them to other committee members.
Do you think enough people know about this river, or is it more of a hidden secret for the people who actually live along it?
Well, it's somewhat hidden. People know it's there. They just drive over it for the most part on bridges and such. And we're starting to make people aware through the Lamprey River Advisory Committee that the river is important. And with the recreation tour that we've started, it's started to highlight a lot of the features of the river that people didn't really pay attention to, including myself. Just through years on the committee, I've learned a lot, and it's you know, a good time to get that out to other people and show them what we have to offer on the river here.
Isn't it amazing what can happen when someone cares so deeply about an area and its people? Mary Folsom Blair was such a person, and to her we are all greatly indebted.
I think she'd be really happy about how things turned out. The fact that people have done what they have done with the park, which is pretty much what she wanted. And all of her students, I'm sure, have grown up not only with an education, but a better understanding of nature.